Hi, everyone. My name is Steven Texera. I'm a systems administrator here at Stan State. And today I want to show you a tool I use every day in my job called PowerShell. PowerShell is a combination of command line and scripting language built on what's called the Microsoft .NET Framework or Microsoft .NET Core if you're using the newer flavor of PowerShell today. .NET is really just a big collection of things that programmers use to write all sorts of different apps. Now, I'm not a programmer, but the makers of PowerShell knew that systems administrators like me wouldn't necessarily be programmers and made PowerShell to be more easily usable without having to be a programmer. I use PowerShell all the time for things like manipulating text, for finding files, finding stuff in files, and all sorts of other things. I even have big, long scripts that configure servers exactly how I want them. Because it comes built into Windows, anybody who's got a Windows computer has access to PowerShell. PowerShell is pretty useful to me and anyone else who uses a computer and wants to automate things they need to do a lot. But today I'll show you something a little more fun. Now, I should say first that PowerShell is called PowerShell because it's just that. It's really powerful. So you should always check with the person who owns the computer before you start playing with PowerShell if the computer isn't yours and belongs to someone else. And I've been showing you the PowerShell command line, which is pretty useful for things I already know and that I just want to run quickly. But when I'm trying things out, I like to use what's called the PowerShell ISE, or the integrated scripting environment. And it gives you a little bit better of a workspace for trying things out with the extra features it's got around writing scripts. So I'm going to go ahead and open that. The white space up here lets me put together things without having to type them in one by one, but I've still got a command line down below that I can do that with too. And that's what I do a lot when I'm building things. I try different things and piece together what works. It's kind of like solving a puzzle. So did you know that you can make your computer talk? I said earlier that PowerShell is built on Microsoft.NET and that the makers of PowerShell give us more simple commands for us non-programmers to use. But since it's still based on this thing that a lot of programmers use to build apps, I still have access to that too. So sometimes I have to use that, especially when I don't have a command that the makers of PowerShell have given me. So you're going to see a little bit of that here too. So if I want to make my computer talk, that's one of those commands that those things that PowerShell makers don't necessarily give us. So I'm going to have to pull something in from this .NET framework to get this to work. So that's what I just did there. I said, all right, give me this speech class, the speech library, so I could do stuff with it. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this brand new object. And this is kind of getting into more of the programming stuff here. You know, you have these objects and, you know, with these objects, you have different things you can do with them. This is a nice ISE feature that kind of lets me see all the things that are available for this particular thing that I just pulled in, like properties. I can look at the properties of this thing. I could even do different things with this. It's called methods. And this one looks like it might be pretty valuable to me. I can do something like
Hello world.
like that, make my computer talk. So when I'm building things, what I like to do is I like to look at those things that are available to me, right? So I can look at the property of this thing and say, all right, well, what's voice? Okay, well, apparently it's these things, the voice of this thing that I have available to me. These are all the properties around that thing. Okay, well, could I do something else? Like, could I get installed voices? What does that do? Well, that doesn't really show me a whole lot. So let me do something like give me everything. That doesn't give me a whole lot. So when I'm building things, I usually have to sit here and see what's available to me and what's not available to me. But I know that one of the things in here that is available to me is the name of a different voice. So maybe I want to change the voice that I'm using. How might I do that? Select voice. That sounds pretty good. And I just happen to know the one that I want. So I think it did something. PowerShell doesn't really tell me whether it does, but what I could do is I can go back, and I'm just using the up arrow at my keyboard, and I can try it again.
Hello world.
So cool. I just changed the voice that that this thing is using. So let's go ahead and put what I've got so far around up here, and I'm going to open up another little workspace, another little script that I could work on right here. PowerShell is kind of neat. You could do all sorts of things. Anything you could do with your computer, you should be able to do in PowerShell. It's what makes it so powerful. And you can even get things on the internet. So I like jokes, and I've got kids, so I like dad jokes. So we're gonna see if we can get a joke from out on the internet somewhere. And when I pull this up, it kind of looks really ugly. Like this is kind of what your browser sees when you're kind of going around the internet and actually going to this site. Your computer doesn't read it as nicely as people do. So there is something I can do, like I can get this coming back to me in a little bit different way. It's called JSON, which is just something that both people and computers can read pretty easily. So if I try that, okay, it's not as scary looking. And when I look at the content, I do have a joke here. And all of these are all of these are going to be pretty different every time we try. I'm just going to grab a new joke every time we do. But I want to just grab that joke. So I hit up, and I'm going to wrap this thing in parentheses because I want PowerShell to know that I want to do this first. Then what I want PowerShell to do is I want it to get something out of this thing that we got. And if I look up here, I have this thing called content. So if I try that, let's see what happens. There we go. Okay, so that's getting closer. It doesn't give me all this extra junk that I don't really want. So maybe if I just want the joke, let's see if I could just do that. No, that doesn't give me anything. So, PowerShell doesn't know what I'm talking about. PowerShell doesn't know what I want. So I'm going to have to think a little bit harder, maybe do some searching. I mean, searching is never a bad thing out on the internet. Chances are someone's tried to do what you're trying to do, and maybe you could learn from that. Just be careful when you're out there on the internet. Some people like to post jokes of their own and post things that you may not want to run on your computer. But what we could do is we could grab the content again, okay? But what we could do is we could use another PowerShell command that I had to look up. And what does that do? Okay, well, it looks kind of the same. It's just presented a different way now. And when it's presented this way, what I should be able to do is now I should be able to pull just the joke part out. And let's see if that works. It does. So if I want to, let's say, combine some things. So I'm going to grab kind of what we hammered and worked out and got put together to get what we want. I'm going to put that there. So I have a joke and I have something that talks. What if I want to make my computer tell me all these jokes? So I'm going to create another workspace and I'm going to copy this over to here into my new workspace. And instead of making it say this, I want to make it say a joke. Well, I know I can get a joke if I do this. So I could make it print the joke on the screen, and then maybe I could say a joke. Let's try that and see what happens.
What is the tallest building in the world? The library. It's got the most stories.
So that was good, but if you notice that the what printed out didn't quite match what it said. So what happened was it pulled a joke and then it pulled a different joke. So I could probably change this around a little bit and say, I want my joke to be stored in something called joke. And instead of pulling down another joke from somewhere on the internet, let's see if I can just speak the joke that I just put into here.
Recent survey revealed 6 out of 7 dwarfs aren't happy.
Okay, well, I got something, but didn't print it out. Well, let's see if I can just print it out.
Who is the coolest doctor in the hospital? The hip doctor.
Cool. So this is what I wanted. I have this thing that prints a joke and then also tells me the joke. So as you can see, using PowerShell can be a lot of trial and error, discovering what works and what doesn't to get what you want. Usually takes a little bit of time, but that's kind of part of the journey. And like I said, it's almost like solving a puzzle most of the time and trying to get what you want out of it. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation and hope you enjoy the rest of Science Day. Bye, everyone.